Hello everyone, PenguinSal here again, back today with another indie game review video. Today we're going to be talking about a game called Seraph's Last Stand. So Seraph's Last Stand plays out, it almost plays out like a Bullet Heaven Survivor, but I also think it's kind of Bullet Hell, because the enemies are shooting a ton of projectiles, so I'd actually probably say it's more Bullet Hell style. But I think one of the things that made this unique was that it's not 2D top-down, like most of these games play out to be. It was actually a 2D side-scroller. I thought that was a unique take on it. I said it was interesting to get such a different feel for a game with such a simple change. They're almost all 2D top-down. I don't think I've ever seen one of these as a 2D side-scroller, so it does play out a little bit different. Now, there are some issues that come with that, in the sense of you are going to get trapped against the walls. There's not a whole lot of ways to go to evade the enemies. The map also doesn't change at all. It's in the same 2D flat structure that it always is. But I think this game had some good parts to it. Essentially, you play as a little wizard, and you shoot projectiles up at the enemies up in the sky that are trying to shoot projectiles down at you and kill you. You dodge them, you kill the enemies, you win, you go on to the next level. And in between levels, you have your choice of different power-ups to choose from. It's things like damage, attack speed. There's different like spells that go off, like lightning. There's barrier generation. There's max health. There's lifesteal. There's actually quite a bit of different things to choose from, which I think is both good and bad. It's great in the sense of it helps the replayability because you can go for different builds, and they did have a cool concept where if you got 10 stacks of a certain ability on you, it would evolve into like a better version. Like, we got one where our attack speed got high enough, so it turned into a laser. We got one where we did this thing called friction, which was every time you traveled, it would shoot fireballs up, where once that hit a certain level, it became a thing called anti-aircraft, that essentially made them explode when they hit enemies and do more damage. So I thought that concept was really cool. The downside of so many different things to pick from, it was really hard to rely on getting the things you were looking for to complete specific builds. And what I mean by that is there's so many different options, and it's obviously RNG and, you know, what's going to show up in your prize pool at the end of each round. And that's not a problem. All of these games rely on RNG when it comes to what things are going to pop up at the end of a wave. However, my biggest issue with this game by far was the reroll system. So a lot of these games now will have a reroll system where at the cost of something, you can reroll the prizes and get a different selection of things to choose from. However, my issue here in Seraph's Last Stand is you have to use this currency called life orbs. Now, life orbs you don't get them that quickly. In, I think, 4 or 5 pretty decent runs, we ended up with like 23 or 24. And they're also the way that you unlock like different like starting equipment for your character, like a different weapon and a different like hat. They cost 25 a piece to start. We never even unlocked one with just the 24 that we got. And the reroll system requires you to use 5. I think 5 life orbs, especially early for a reroll, is probably the worst currency payment I've seen for a reroll in a game like this. Like I said, we got 24 of these life orbs in, like, collectively in 5 runs. You have to use 5 to reroll once, and you're not even guaranteed anything good. I think there's a chance you'll get these a lot more if you played really far into the game, like, and once you unlocked everything and you don't have anything else to use these orbs for, then sure, they're probably not as bad. But early on, I couldn't reroll a single time, because I'm holding on to these because I want to use them to unlock the different character items to start the game. So you were never able to reroll. Rerolling in these games is essential to crafting builds, because if you get something that pops up and says, you know, it's 3 things that don't help you, rerolling is so important to being able to get something that would make your build actually stronger, especially if you're really trying to grind deeper into this game. And sure, they did have some nice things like this system called Appraisal, which was a passive upgrade you could take that would give you more options of items to take. They also had a luck thing that would give you a higher chance of getting better things in the prize pool. But we had a couple of runs, one in particular, that the prize pool at the end just didn't roll anything good. And that always happens in these games, but it just didn't feel great that you couldn't re-roll to hopefully get something that would have helped you survive longer. That being said, I think Seraph's Last Stand has some interesting points to it. I think it has really good stat upgrades you can get. But this is another game where I think you'd really only go back and play this more if you felt like grinding the score system. You're trying to grind the leaderboard to get higher on the score system, because the enemies don't change, the map doesn't change. You're essentially playing the exact same run every time you play it. For me, that gets stale relatively quickly. The only thing that really keeps it on is that there is like a decent amount of different builds it seems you can make in the game. But they also had some enemies that frustrated me, that seemed to like perfectly counter like a certain build that I was doing. But it just seems like a game that, you know, it has a cheap cost. So I think if you do like these types of games, it's worth trying out, especially if you like grinding the leaderboard. I think this one's worth giving a shot to. There will be a link for it in the description below. Feel free to give it a try. It's called Seraph's Last Stand. Let me know what you think about this one. If you like hearing me give these reviews for games like this, feel free to give the video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I know I say it every day, but it would help us continue to grow, which would allow us to get more games and showcase more games to you guys. And I've been enjoying doing that, and I hope you guys have been enjoying watching them. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.